Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another weekly market review for F45 trading for the week of August 12th to the 16th. So we're still middle of the summer, so don't get too crazy on your trading. September's just around the corner. Labor Day weekend is upon us here in about 3 weeks. So if you can, save your gunpowder for the next couple of weeks here, and then markets should get exciting again. Right now, as you can see, U.S. dollar, we're still in this consolidation after the big FOMC news, FOMC monetary policy results, which, as I mentioned to you, I'm sure you probably would have heard me at some point in time, whether in our member group or in this public video that I do every single week, that price was going to spike above this high here and reject, and it's exactly what we did. What happened? It ran above it and rejected. Let me take off the day divider here so you can see it a little bit better. You can see that price stabbed right up in there and then fell right back over, this being the old high here. So and now we came all the way back down. We're kind of holding at some support levels in here. And as you can see, though, if you go back into time, you can see right where we're at. I mean, look how much indecision and how many, not necessarily, I shouldn't say indecision, but look how much time they spent in this area, one area right in here, as this area right underneath it, and as I've mentioned before. So again, it's doing exactly what it should be doing in the middle of summer. I would imagine that this area in here is probably going to offer some support going down the road. And I would imagine, especially for this week, there's really nothing. I'm going to bring up the news calendar here. Nothing to speak of on the news for the week to mention. We've got some Australian news on Monday. We've got a mix of pound sterling, euro, and U.S. dollar CPI and core CPI meeting minutes on Tuesday, and then medium impact euro and Aussie news, and some high impact CPI for the pound. And then finishing Wednesday off on Aussie. And then going into Thursday, we've got a European holiday and retail sales for the pound. And that's early on in early Thursday, London Open. And then we have U.S., some high impact U.S. dollar, core retail, Philly Fed, and retail sales meeting minutes on August the 15th to Thursday. So we should see a little bit of volatility on Thursday. And then Friday, building permits and prelim consumer sentiment. So all in all, pretty good week. I don't see a lot of landmines or anything here to get too concerned about. It should be a fairly decent moving week. But again, that being said, right? I mean, look where we're at. We're in the middle of summer still. There's still a lot of big money on the sidelines. We're still waiting for price to really start moving and getting back into the groove of things after September long weekend. And again, coming up here in a few weeks. So take it easy in your trading. If you got some holidays coming up, or some downtime, use it while you can, because I think this fall is going to be a very, very exciting fall. And the other thing too, we're still in these trade wars here with the U.S. and China. So as you can see, U.S. dollar, I think it's artificially being propped up by that. But the markets are a little bit jittery. I mean, you look at gold. I'll show you here in a few minutes. Gold's hitting all-time highs here in the past 8 years or something like that. So markets are a little off right now. So again, if you don't have to trade to put food on the table, I wouldn't. Right? Just take it easy. Anyway, so going forward, as I mentioned, called this high, ripped above it, ran back down south, and now we've got price stagnating sideways. So I'm assuming probably a little bit more of the same. I would imagine we'll see price run down here and take out these lows from last week, maybe even breaching this low here. What I'd honestly like to see is it come down and trade right below this low right here, and trade down to about 96.80 is sort of the level that I'm looking at on the downside. That's where I'd like to see it get down to. It may not. It certainly may not, and it definitely does not have to stay down here. It could just shoot down just below these lows here, not even breaching this low, and then start to run higher. But I definitely think we could see price come down into here. At least I'd like to see it. Now, finishing off the week, who knows? We could have a week that does something like this. I'm not bearish U.S. dollar, especially because we're not breaking here. We came all the way down and failed to get below this low. They're really propping this thing up. And if you look from a a trend line sort of perspective, you can see how it's respecting this trend line in here. You know, whether or not that holds up going forward, I don't know, but for now it is, and I would expect that this would also hold up as well too. So I don't think we're going to get down below and run these lows here. If we break 96.80 on the downside, I'd be looking right around probably about 96.50 level. If that gets run out, then we're gonna, you know, 96.60 level, somewhere in there. If that gets run out, then we're probably going to try to run for these lows, but you'll be able to find out and tell when that's going to happen, if it happens at all. But I think this is more likely what we're going to see going through this week. Maybe not even a dip this low, but again, you know, we're right in the middle of this sideways action right now, so I wouldn't expect a whole bunch. There's not a lot of news on the forecast. Biggest news event is Tuesday, CPI, and then Thursday for retail sales. So that may be enough to get it out of this funk, but I think ultimately my target on the upside is right around here. I think there's going to be some resistance level, potentially 97.75. That's a target anyway. We could keep shooting higher and running up above that, because I think ultimately we've got some area of a bit of a gap in here, essentially, is what I'm looking at. And that comes all the way in at and up to about 99, and maybe even, might, possibly, probably could potentially get up to $1. Who knows? But definitely you can see this is a very bullish action, or bullish price trend right in here. It's not going anywhere quick, but it is moving up, and I'm not going to be fighting that trend and calling a down market until we break these lows here. And until that happens, we're going to remain bullish. So I'm going to pick upward targets. I'm going to let the market do its thing. I'm going to watch it travel sideways or south, and then we'll be looking at getting long. Going into the Euro USD, same type of idea. I've got an area above these levels in here pegged that I think is probably going to see price run up to, and I'd like to see that. And what I'd like to see is that dollar fail to make a low underneath here, where the euro would just run this high right up in here very briefly, reject, and then go lower. And I think we can easily get that. I had some trade ideas last week. I thought we were going to get that, but you can see here we just went sideways, and the actual mover was cable. That one moved last week. So we had one big up day to start off last week, and that was pretty much about it after it ran all those lows under here. So I really want to see it pile up into here, but time will tell if that's going to happen or not. And you can see it just looks like they're just building up and building up. It's starting to form into a bit of a wedge right now, as you can see here. So sort of an ascending wedge, and typically the breakout on those happen from there. It goes like this. So that's sort of what I'm looking at. So watch for that. But ultimately, I don't believe we're going to get too high on it. And again, if we do, great. Then that means we're breaking down below here, and then we can switch our focus. If we get above this level here, then we would switch our focus and maybe look at this high, and that high. But I don't think that's where we're going. I think there's just too much pressure on this to go lower. And again, weekly, we've got some areas below us here that where we got this big gap that everyone's been waiting to get filled in right down here, where I think they're eventually going to take price. And we bring that down, closing that gap right around here at 107, 80, 75, whatever the high of this candle is here. So that's what I'm looking for on cable ultimately. But I wouldn't be surprised if it has a quick fade up and then a rejection. Cable, that was the mover last week. As you can see here, this is a weekly chart. On the daily, that was all last week. It was just sideways, 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 then all of a sudden a big shot down to finish off the week last Friday. So big mover. Again, we have an old low back here at 119.35 on the downside that they're probably going to want to run out. There's a lot of pressure on cable right now, and with Brexit and everything else going on, I'm not going to be bullish on this pair for any time soon unless price decides to, legit break through this area in here and get a trade above this green area. Then we might be able to look at some bullish ideas. But there's definitely nothing. This is, I think, an all-time low since I want to say 75 or something like that on the cable. It's been a very long time since it's traded this low before. And I'll be honest with you, this thing could keep sinking until they figure out what they're going to do with Brexit. This thing could keep sinking. So discount sells, and I believe we're going to see it continue lower. So for the week, looking at this here on the week, Like, I wouldn't be surprised if I don't think we're going to come and trade above this area in price right here. I don't believe that's an option. But I wouldn't be surprised if we came up and traded up here a little bit and then fell off. That may be something we could look for. Or it could just, there is some cable news this week, some high impact average earnings index and retail sales. So, they could wait till later in the week to do it. Or they could just drop it straight from here and try to run for this line right here. So not very far away. We're only about 100 pips away from that now. So they could easily do that early in the week. And the reason being, Euro GBP, look at this thing. This thing's a monster. Just 1, 2, 3. This is, by the way, on a monthly chart, 4 months straight up. Boom, 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 boom. Took out this old high. Where's it going to go next? Probably above this high. Maybe even ultimately that high. I don't know. But definitely don't want to be standing in front of this. I haven't seen a rejection yet on this guy yet. We may start to see that into September's monthly open. But so far, you can see very, very bullish. And that's what's propelling the pound sterling down. And as the US dollar continues to hold itself higher, we're not going to see that rise in the Euro USD. So if anything, we're going to just see continued sideways momentum more to the downside on Euro USD as long as Euro GBP continues higher. Okay. US CAD is an interesting one on the week. This one's actually was moving a little bit. Apart from what the US dollar was doing, we had a nice uptrend, and then price ran right up into the targets that I had from last week. And if you guys recall from my live or my recorded video, excuse me, from last week, my high on it was 133.40, and we actually got 133.44. So I was off by 4 pips calling the high. So hopefully you guys got part of this move last week, and yeah, it since has fallen off. Again, with the US dollar just running stagnant and going sideways, there's no telling. We could see this fall further down, or it could just propel up and keep running higher. You have some more targets up above here that I'm looking at, but I'll save those for our members group. And with that, I didn't see anything on US yen that excited me too much, other than that more than likely it's probably going to continue down here and taking out this low here. Which, again, I mean, this pair is falling off, and the US dollar is doing none of that. So, again, very uncorrelated markets. These two should be going exactly the same, and they are completely different. So that, again, very indicative of summer trading months. Australian dollar just took out a very, very important low here and rejected very strongly. So, again, not looking at anything on Australian dollar for a little bit until it starts to pick a direction. Right now, it's just kind of going sideways, so we'll wait for this one. That wraps up Forex. Going into crude oil, I'm sorry, guys, I'm burning through these pretty quick here because it's just, there's not a ton to talk about right now in the markets. So when September comes in, we'll obviously get a little more detail in our analysis and get a little more specific. But until then, we'll just deal with it. But crude oil. So we just took out some major lows on crude oil right there. And this is a direct result of the trade wars that are going on. By all accounts, crude oil should be going up. They're cutting production. Everyone's holding, steadfast with that, and there's no changes. OPEC is trying. They just released and said, the market's jittery and everyone's selling into oil because of these trade wars, because the demand could potentially go down. Trust me when I say this, oil demand will never, ever go down unless somebody comes out with an alternative to build all forms of material substance without oil. Until that happens, there will always be a massive demand for oil, and it will always keep going up. They're going to manipulate it, of course, which is what you're seeing here. Just taking out those old previous lows right there. Now, I want to see what happens with crude oil. I like how they ran all the way down and rejected very strongly. So I think that as long as we can get above, whoops, sorry, wrong button. If we can get above this area right here, I'm going to wait for this week to play out. But if we can get above this block of price action in here and get above if we can trade above 54.80, you know what, for all intents and purposes, we'll say 55, just to play it safe. If we can trade above 55 on the week, I would stay bullish, and I would say that there could be a good chance it may want to run this out. If we do not, though, then there's a real good chance that this is not going to be the low and that they're going to come back down for that again. And who knows, maybe they could even want to trade all the way back down to this area of support down into here, this block of price back down in here. That is a possibility. So I'm going to be watching crude very, very closely this week to see what it wants to do. OPEC's scrambling and trying to do everything they can to keep price up because they don't want to keep selling their prices at discount, obviously, if they don't have to. So, but the market's acting very strongly off of these. And again, if I'm not going to go into it, but if you haven't done any research on the trade wars, the U.S.-China trade wars, you better look it up and you better figure it out in a big hurry because it's affecting the market big time. And with oil is one of those markets that's being affected by it as well too. Okay, S&P came off of a big rally, a big fall off 2 weeks ago. Again, you would have had to been living under a rock to not see this one. And perfect sell-off and right into an obvious level of support and rejected very strongly. I'm looking bullish prices on the week. And who knows, we may even get above these old highs right in here. So as long as price is staying above, as long as price stays above, you know what, let's do this. As long as price stays above this level here, we'll stay bullish on S&P. And I know that's that's quite a ways down. You could honestly, and I do see some levels down in here where we could trade back down to. Ultimately, I'd like to see them stay above this block of price right in here, all this consolidation right in here. I think that's a pretty high area of support. As long as we stay above that, we should see these old highs getting hit again very soon. So, finally, look at gold. And again, you've got to be living under a rock not to see gold, but look at it up in here. Huge, huge highs. I got to go out to a monthly. And we still got some upside, I believe, left. Get rid of that arrow there. I'm calling 1500s, and it priced just last week got up into 1510. So I'm looking much higher. I'm looking 1520, possibly even higher than that on gold. I would really love to see this thing cool down and give us a good entry. I would love to see this. That's what I'd like to see on gold and give us that next leg up. So I'm going to be watching that. We're starting to get a little bit of consolidation in here, but it could be the same thing. I was looking for the same thing on this price structure move up, and it just consolidated for about a month, and then it just shot right up out of the blue after the interest rate decision a couple of weeks ago. So that's gold for you. But looking for, again, a move back lower, a little bit of a gap in here. I'd like to see them to trade back down to that if we can. Get down into there, then we could look at picking up some potential longs in that area, and then away we go off to the races. So I hope this review helped you guys. If you have any questions, go ahead and find me on Instagram at F45 Trading. Go to our website. You can check out that, and you can see some of our membership options there. I also do live one-on-one coaching for brand new traders who are getting out there who want to take part in the market and you're not too sure how. I got some great information there, and that you can take advantage of, and a lot of other options for you guys. So we've got chat rooms, we've got signals, we've got market reviews, lots of stuff for all of our members. So check us out, f45trading.com. And if I don't see you in there in the chat room or otherwise, I will catch up to you guys for our next free installment next Sunday. Hope you guys have a great week of trading. Thanks very much for watching.